Okay, so we started a 501c3. It's called the United States Junior Soaring Association. And there's three of us that are in charge of it right now. And our mission is to own gliders that juniors can fly. So the Soaring Society of America does a great job with their funding for camps, the subsidies for the camps, the subsidies for contest flying. You know, I think it's like 90% of it's subsidized. So to go to the U.S. Nationals right now, it's about $100 or so. But you have to have something to fly. So that's what we're doing. We're providing something to fly. And that's always the hardest thing, is, you know, trying to borrow a glider and get the glider for the first time. So we're making that happen. You know, like, is borrowing gliders, is it, you know, how does it help? That kind of stuff. Does anybody know who this pilot is? So out of this whole list of contest flying, there's two. Yes, this is one pilot. There's one pilot, right? And there's the two contests in 2014 that person flew their own glider. Everything else there was a borrowed glider. Sarah Arnold. Sarah has borrowed. Sarah is a world champion. The first one since, what, Doug Jacobs? For the U.S.? Yes. Because of all these people. All right, so all these people help Sarah get to where she is. All right, so does loaning your glider, does helping cultivate juniors and getting them equipment, does it help? We got a world champion out of it. All right? But these are all the people all the gliders that Sarah has borrowed over the years to get her where she is. So about 7 years ago, a gentleman was moving to Germany for work. He owned a standard Cirrus. And he goes, well, what I want to do is I want to give it to the SSA for the juniors so the juniors can fly it. Well, what would the SSA do with it? They'll sell it. They'll take the cash. And it will help out one rotation of guys going to the Worlds. But that's not what he wanted. He wanted a legacy type, right? He wanted to continue helping juniors over the years. And he goes, well, if I could just find somebody that would, you know, take this standard Cirrus. And I said, well, I'll do it. So I'm the proud owner of Alpha X-Ray. Over the last 7 years, it's gotten about 500 hours. Out of all the pilots that have flown it, 5 of them have become flight instructors and gliders. And the deal is that you show up to my place and you work on the glider. So 1 year we put winglets on it. The last kid refinished the horizontal stabilizer, so he sanded, did a lot of sanding, more sanding. We shot the primer, sanded that, and you know, he did a little bit of work here, and then we ended up finishing it for him. But so that was his rental fee, was about a week's worth of work. Another group put winglets on, and somebody else had done something else to it, and so you tinker on the glider. You learn how to tinker on the glider. You learn how to clean it, to lube it, to do a condition inspection. You learn what is that process. How do we do that? So you show up to my place, and we work on the glider together. Then you take it and you go. And I want to hear from you. If you got a problem, call me, right? If you got a problem, just call me, please, and we'll work on it. We'll get it fixed. But if not, go fly. Go to places that your club you couldn't take a glider to, right? So the very first person that took this was Zach Yamaguchi, right? And a lot of you have seen him. You've seen him on We Glide, the OLC. He did 1,000K in his Nimbus 4 a couple weeks ago, and he goes to Ely, and he flew the South African Nationals, but he couldn't. His club, he had maxed out what the club would allow him to do. And that's what we wanted. We needed somebody that was motivated, and he had just kind of maxed it out. So we gave him a glider, and off he went. and he went to Ely, and he went to all these places. And part of the deal was he would take it. If he showed up somewhere, he had to get a mentor. He had to get a local mentor. And then you got to do as many camps as you possibly can. And with the USSA subsidies, it's cheaper to go to a camp or a contest anyway, right? So go fly the club class nationals. It's going to be cheaper than going, somewhere. It's cheaper than getting local toes, right? So go and oh, I don't have a tent, right? I got to stay in a hotel. I have a tent. Comes with a tent. Comes with a barbecue. Comes with lawn chairs. Comes with a cooler. It's like fully ready to go, right? You don't need to. I spent many years camping at the airport racing, right? I still do. So no more excuses, right? You have a glider, you have everything, go. That's it. When you're done, right, you got to fly it or you lose it. So if you're done flying it, you're not going to be able to fly it. Work shows up. I had a guy a couple years ago. He ended up having to change base. He was in the military and then stuff had come up, and so he gave the glider back, and I got it to somebody else. And so, you fly it or lose it. And when you bring it back, you're going to clean it up. You scratch the wing, you do a bunch of, I don't care. We're going to fix it. I'm going to teach you how to fix it. Right? So you plan on spending a couple days at the end of your, return, and we'll clean it up. We'll fix it up. We'll get it ready for the next guy. Right? So that's what I've been doing with Alpha X-Ray, and I picked up a label last year to do the same thing. So now I have a standard Cirrus and a 301 label. And the same thing is supposed to go out there. So this is good. It's all, me and my money and that kind of stuff. And I posted something on Facebook that, hey, I got this opportunity to buy a label. I need some help. So Bill Figus wrote me a check and said, go buy the label. Here's some extra for, the rest of your stuff. And he goes, this is all nice, right? But it's all you, and you need money. You need real money. So he gave us his STEMI S10 VT and said, sell it. So we're still working on the 501c3, and we'll talk about that. JP hopefully will walk in here, and he can explain where he's holding it up. But we have it with Sand Hill right now, and so Sand Hill is holding onto the money. And so Bill got a tax donation with it. We have $160,000 sitting in an account.
So you did sell it?
Yeah, it's gone. So we now have this cash that we can really go and buy gliders. Right, so that's the idea now. So now we have the cash. Of course, we were always looking for more. We're looking for more gliders and equipment and that kind of stuff. But we have the capital to be able to actually do this and do it on like a legit level here. Not just me loaning out these older gliders. So the question kind of comes in like, what do we want to do with this money? What do we want to buy? So I talked to Benj Nogales, who is very quietly working his way up. Most likely will be the French team captain at some point, but he's back in the French government. He was a sales rep for Champierth for 7 years and has moved his way back into the French government again, doing his old stuff. And he goes, you got to buy a 29. And we're like, oh, okay. Because that will teach guys the wing loading, right? If you want to be competitive at the World Championships, you need to learn about wing loading if we're going to be flying anything modern. But the U.S. isn't quite there yet. So we thought, well, you know what we ought to do is we got this money. We can buy an Air Force of standard Cirruses. We could have a whole Air Force. We could have 10 of them, put them all over the country. It'd be fantastic. But the problem is now we have to deal with 10 old Eberly trailers and 10 60 or comets, maybe we get a comet, right? But we're going to have an old trailer. We have manual hookups. We have all that kind of stuff. So we decided, you know what, we're going to be snobby about it. And we're going to go up a generation. We're going to get automatic hookups for safety. And we're going to get a good trailer for safety. And so I don't have to deal with an old crappy trailer. And it's one thing if it's yours and that's what you can afford and that's what you have. The thing is we can afford something better. So our current plan, the funds that we have, we currently have 2 discuses. We'll end up, our goal is 3. We can afford and get 3 discuses. So Heinz at M&H Soaring will be collecting a discus B. It's here currently, and it'll be driven back up along with 13 gallons of paint. It'll be a full refinish, finished in MIPA, the same stuff that Schempierth uses, LX on the panel, interior, exterior, has a Cobra trailer, fully ready to go. Be ready by spring. My brother is donating his discus A, so the old JP, the old jet pilot. That will be going in. We'll be doing a full refinish on it, inside and out. And we'll have one on the East Coast, one on the West Coast for now. And the idea is the gliders have been fully gone through. They're in perfect shape. But it'll be similar to Alpha X-Ray, where you come to the location, you work on it, you get the glider prepared, and take it and leave. Seriously, go race, right? The hard part is getting that first glider, right? When you look at that list on Sarah, trying to get that first glider. Once you get that first glider and you show the potential, it gets easier and easier and easier. It was hard trying to get that first glider for me. It was a pick 20 by one of our local pilots. I used to crew for him, and then he bought a 27, and he goes, well, I got this pick, so if you want to fly, you can just, I'll hang on to it. And so I did. I flew it for a couple years until, stuff got in the way, and he goes, okay, well, if you're not flying it, I'm going to sell it. And I sold it, and then just kind of kept getting gliders. I ended up in Hobbs at the Standard Class Nationals, drove through the night, picked up a Ventus A, and then drove to Tonopah to the 15-meter Nationals. It got easier and easier to get gliders, but you got to get that first one. So we're providing the first one, and that's the goal. We're trying to bridge that gap, right? The clubs won't, and it's nothing against it. I mean, we don't either with our commercial operation. The clubs don't have the equipment to loan out to go do the cross country. The insurance is too high. The liability is too high. There's too much risk in it, and I totally get it. So if you have maxed out what the club can do and you want to get to that next level, we'll provide the glider. And the SSA will provide the funding. They'll subsidize the regionals. They'll subsidize the camp. They'll subsidize the nationals.
It's basically like you get a glider, and then you get to fly for almost free.
Yes.
Because you just go to regionals and regional.
Yes, you just jump from regional to regional, and you camp. You're in college. You're not staying at the Hilton, right? And you show up. If you're a junior and you show up to a contest, and you're like trying to figure out what you're doing for dinner, I guarantee you will get invited to somebody's dinner or barbecue every single night. Guaranteed. And we want the motivation. We want somebody that wants to go, right? They want to do this. They have a desire to do this. So Alpha X-Ray went to Zach, but he wasn't the first on the list. I had somebody else that was first on the list. They were on the East Coast. They were currently at the time when I was talking to him, he was at the seniors crewing or running the line or working on the line at the seniors. And he goes, well, you're all the way in California. And yes, I am. And I said, well, at the pilots meeting, stand up and go, Garret Willat has a standard Cirrus that I can have for the entire summer starting now, but I need help going to get it. I was like, I guarantee 5 people will be like, when are we leaving? We're taking my car and I'm paying. Right? I guaranteed somebody is going to help this kid out. And he was like, no, I don't really want to, I don't know if I could do that. I don't want to ask anybody, and I don't think anybody would really help. And I was like, all right, you don't have the level of motivation I want. And I put it up, and I got Zach, and Zach's like, well, I could be there this weekend. It's going to be kind of hard because I'm finishing finals. It would be a little bit easier. I'm like, the following weekend is fine, right? He was like, And then it turns out he doesn't even have a car to tow it. He had to go borrow a roommate car and do this big shuffle with the cars. But he's motivated, right? We're going to help somebody that's motivated. And this kid is motivated. He now has a Nimbus 4 he flight instructs for me when I need somebody, and he works for my brother at the drop zone, and he's flying my 140. He needed that. He needed that help, right? And the help didn't really cost me anything. It was, here's my Cirrus, have fun, go fly, right? And that's what we're trying to do, right? That's what our goal is here. So, how would you get a glider? You have to show these different things, right? You have to show the potential, the summer schedule, that kind of stuff. So currently, right now, available for the juniors is a Discus 2C that Sandhill Soaring has. And you can do their application to get it for a contest, and you can borrow it for the contest. So the contest is good. It's great. I'm not saying anything bad about it. But if you can get it for the whole season and really fly, you need to learn how to fly it, right? If I hop in a Discus 2C on practice day 1 and go, I'm probably not going to do the best. It's going to help. But if you can have that glider and take that glider for the season.
This model, I know in Germany and some other countries they have this model where you apply for the glider for the whole year, right?
Yes, yeah. So there's.
I think DG has it like an LS1 or something.
Yep, DG has a glider that they loan. There's, I think, I was talking to Tilo, and there's like 5 gliders that are loan. Like there's a Nimbus 4, and there's actually a posting on it somewhere on one of the Facebook pages that it's looking for its new home for the next season. And it's the only Nimbus 4 in Germany that's at 850 pure glider. So they wrote a tech note for it, and then you take this Nimbus 4 and you go, and there's these different groups, and there's these different gliders that are available in Europe. And there's also the clubs that have the ability to loan the gliders. If you're a club member, they have an LS8 or they have an LS4, and you're allowed to go take it. And I understand that there's differences in insurance, and the clubs in Europe are generationally wealthy, right? If you look at a club in Europe, they have generation wealth. They own this airport. They've had this airport since just after World War II, and they have this money, and they have Arcuses and Duos and Ventuses, and they have this gigantic fleet. But they have this wealth within the club that you can take the gliders to be able to do it. So there are these organizations that have something similar to this setup. We have an issue here where it's a huge country, right? And I'm in California, in San Diego, so like I'm in far as one corner as you can get. And so the Cirrus and the LaBelle have been, or plan on kind of coming back to me. But the whole goal is, if this glider is cleaned and refinished and everything's been gone through, it doesn't have to come back. It can go to Elmira. It can go, and Tony can hold on to it for the winter, and do the handover to the next person. And so it's free. You have the insurance, all right? So you're going to cover the non-owner's insurance. It's still insured through. It's still in our group and owned by our group, and so you get non-owner's insurance and take it and go. But the idea is, if we can have these clean gliders, they can just move around, right? And they can, and it doesn't have to come back to me, and we'll have a couple people, around the country that I feel comfortable with, because not all maintenance facilities are of equal caliber or competency. And so, as long as they're going back to be held on to that person, or to somebody. So the whole idea is with these 2 discuses and the Discus B that's going to going to Heinz, this all started about a week ago. So we're able to get that, and Karen purchased it, and it's going back. It's here right now, and it's going to get driven back to Elmira to get started on. And so we have that. So our goal is to have kind of this fleet of Discus competency, right? So we do have the potential. There was one person that we've kind of quietly talked to that said they had an LS8 that they were looking at, selling the LS8 to us at a huge discount, and so we would give them some cash, and then we'd get it. We have a 501c3 that we have started that I was really, really hoping that we'd announce here, that that it's set up and it's ready to go.
So write your check.
Yeah, so write your check, and I'll take checks here, and we'll be ready to go. That was like really our ultimate goal. So hopefully when JP walks in, he can tell us what the status is, because I have not kept up with the email threads, but that's kind of our goal. That's why we haven't really announced it in Soaring magazine, and been able to talk about Bill. He donated his S10. He was like, you need real money, so I have this S10, and here, sell it, and make it happen.
I think once though that it is announced and it's put in the Soaring magazine and the request is put out there, I think you'll see.
I think we'll see it. I think there's a lot of people that want to do it, but how, and we needed to have that organization to be able to do it. And we needed to have people not dumb enough like myself and JP to to do it and to get it going. So our goal is kind of in that range, right? We want the automatic hookups and we want a good trailer. And we're being snotty. I mean, it's too much to manage.
I think you're being it's
Yeah.
logical because the last thing you would want is someone to forget to hook up the controls.
Yes.
With automatic hookups, it's like
That's done. And then the trailer, one of the kids a couple years ago that had my Cirrus was driving out of Avenal, and the wheel bearing just came apart. So just departed the trailer. So now it has a new axle. But then thankfully Zach was like, okay, well shit, I'll pick it up. I'm driving up there. He'll take my brother's truck and the jacks, and we do all this stuff. But I don't want to deal with that, and we don't have to. So all right, so JP is going to talk about where we are with the 501c3 and also answer any questions.
Hi, I got stuck working. Not a huge surprise for most people. So as Garret gave you a little bit of an overview of the whole program, we set up a 501c3 now to actually be able to take these gliders and do something with them. And I think most people know that the SSA's had a glider donation program for a long time, but it was more of donate your glider, convert to cash, and then use that for something else, right? And so this program really is geared at actually using the glider for young people to go fly. We have filed the first round of paperwork, so we're waiting to hear back formally on the 501c3. We do have some methods which we can use to take donations sooner than that and move them into the nonprofit, but using other partner organizations. And so hopefully we'll have that back by the end of the year to make this formally real. If the sort of plug, right, if you know anybody that's thinking about their estate planning or what they want to do with gliders, or have one that's just been sitting there for a while, there's a bunch of different models that we can use to put them productively to work, right? Be it a low-cost lease where we'll take care of the aircraft and liability, all the way to the full donation. So, there's a pretty big spectrum there, but we're excited to be able to make it possible. And I don't know, we can take questions on anything that you'd like to talk about from there. Go ahead.
Yeah, so the question I have is, what can we as a Soaring Society or as a greater community do to help enable you? So I think, Tony, you're excited about this. I'm thinking back to 20 years ago when Tony first started and how much something like this could have benefited. But what can we do to help?
I'll say now, going on year 10 after Tony suckered me into being the chair of the youth committee, my take on the most honest answer is we need people to help execute programs. For the most part, the SSA actually has made pretty substantial commitments and funding, every year so far, and we have this program that's funded, right, to do the junior camp, so both a cross-country camp and a flight training camp. The flight training camp we just tried for the first time in the winter this past year in Arizona, and very well attended, very successful. We have all of the scholarship programs, which now go from somebody who's been out to the airport a couple times and maybe is interested in flying, but you're still trying to feel it out, all the way up to the CFI scholarship. So we have a full spectrum available there. But it just takes a lot of work, and now this glider program, right? But it just takes a lot of work and needs people who can go run those programs and pick an area and do it well. And so you don't have to do everything. It's not a massive time commitment, but if 3 or 4 people would pick up an hour or 2 a week so that one person doesn't have to do everything, then that would really help a lot of us out. Anything you want to add?
Yeah, so so right now we have the gliders. We're working, as I said, we're working on the donation. I think so we had this one with Bill with this STEMI, and we of course weren't set up, but we're like, well, the end of the year is coming. Let's, so we got Sand Hill to hold the money. So we're trying not to pull the money out of that until our stuff is done. I mean, they're like, well, if you need to, we will. So we were just kind of like waiting on that. But definitely if, there's something coming in, they will go and hold it for us without really too much fuss. So they've been very supportive. So that's been really good. We've just been kind of laying low for the most part until, we have a product. But at some point, like with the convention coming up, we're like, well, we got to say something about it. So, here we are. But this is all in the works. Both gliders should be ready by spring. The plan is we'll get a website up and we'll get, an application process coming in. Anybody does web?
Well, this actually, we should integrate this into the new SSA website. It should be integrated into it.
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
should.
Yeah, it should be.
Let's
Yeah.
put that as a requirement.
Okay.
Okay.
Yeah.
I'll make that happen.
All right.
Okay.
Yes. Yeah. There we go. So, but the idea is, we can get a process and the application, like I did it the first year, and we actually had an application, and we're in a text thread with Tony, and we made all the requirements on there, and some of them somewhat ridiculous, but you got to be motivated to do this, and so get people interested and then get them out there and go. So yeah, everything's still a little bit early. We're still hoping to get everything finalized, but we can do some things through Sandhill and through our account. We just want to be kind of gentle to their accounting right now. So, and as JP said, we're hoping the end of the year, but we were hoping for a couple months ago. So it is what it is. Goes at a government pace. So.
More focused on, say, camps or cross-country, but maybe one way of partnering with the cross-country program is that step below. And maybe it's not specifically a whole glider, but maybe it's some of the loggers or flight computers that are needed for that person to maybe start building up some of that cross-country time, so that then their next step might be to apply for something like this.
That's good.
I mean, that's a great idea, and I think the money would be there to do it. So if you signed up to do it, then somebody can. We just really genuinely just need somebody who manages the program. Make sure that the word gets out, that people who need loggers get them, and that they get taken care of and cleaned up and returned on some cadence, right? And like that's 90. I'm genuinely serious. A substantial part of our problem is just people who can competently execute and run programs. And put the time into it. So, if you're interested in helping, right, you don't have to do everything, but pick a small thing and do it really well. And then you can really make a difference there. There should be no excuse that a young person can't learn to fly gliders, and then more importantly, can't get adopted and get pulled into the community over time. Stunned silence.
Does anybody have any questions, or we just want to get it out there? Like this is.
I'm excited.
This is what we're doing.
Because I think that we just can't just continue to do what we've always been doing, because we're in a decline of the sport, and if we don't get more people, if we don't get the bottom coming in, the top's going to go away. The top is going away.
Yeah.
So.
Attrition. It is going away.
Yeah, I mean, in 10 years, what's it going to look like? In the General Assembly. SSA General Assembly that we're having later. In 10 years, probably 20% of those people will not be in the sport.
True.
So I know in one of the talks next door, the previous hour, the current SSA president came to the WSPA group and was asking for thoughts and how can we recruit more women or youth. To me, this is definitely an answer. I don't know if you've engaged the SSA leadership or governors. Are they aware of this? Is this something?
I mean, I'm the chair of the youth committee on my side, so it's a different hat. But yeah, I mean, I think people are aware of the program, and this first year with Sandhill was the first trial of doing that. You know, when we set out to do it, we brought it up because of the fact that the SDA already has that glider donation program. But I think there was a consensus or belief that it made sense for in addition to funding programs from gliders, that using gliders themselves for the intended purpose was something that was worth doing.
Yeah, and I mean, and the SSA doesn't want necessarily whole gliders; they want the liability.
Right.
Nobody wants the
You
liability.
gotta have somebody to take care of it.
Yes.
Because
Yes.
it's maintenance, and the SSA doesn't want that.
Yeah, so
Exactly.
we can kind of do that. We figured,
That is the whole purpose of this organization, right? Is to isolate the responsibility and liability for the care and feeding of gliders from the operation of a more holistic junior program, right? Which is really, I think, the part that you're bringing up, and that really lives within the youth committee proper.
Well, glad to see the youth committee is aware.
Left brain, right brain. Yeah. Other questions, comments?
Thank you both.
Cool. So we'll sign everybody up here. We got your blood packed, and everything's good. Cool. Thanks.
Good to see you. Good to see you.